The LA Clippers. New looks, new uniforms, new logos, new team, new arena. Same old Clippers? Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I just made a huge retail investment. $100 a square meter for land in heaven. What a deal. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Through the summer, FanDuel is giving every customer, every day, either a boost or a bonus. Daily boosts or bonus for all customers all summer long. Go to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. Like to get a thumb from you? That'd be nice. Comment, subscribe, a follow on the audio side. Double bang, do audio and video as we head through the NBA offseason, into preseason, into regular season. We're going to have a lot of shows. People ask these questions. You're going to have mock drafts? Of course I am. Are we going to do things like looking at rookies? Yes. Second-year players? Yes. Third-year breakouts? Yes. Are we going to look at where we hit ADPs and sleepers? Like, what do you think this is? Of course we are. Doing all that stuff, as we do every year. Lots of stuff coming your way. Now, we've got to talk about the Clippers. So let's talk about the Clippers. All right, he's back again to talk about the Clippers. Darian Vaziri, dime dropper. You are here. The LA Clippers, they are rebranded. They are in a new arena, which I was in LA a month or so ago, and it looks crazy from the outside. I'm very excited to see what games look like inside, but it's not going to look the same on the court because they've pivoted. There's changes to the way the Clippers are running things. Has that dulled enthusiasm, do you think, around the squad?
I don't know about the squad, but the fan base, I mean, fans are just ecstatic. I was just at the place on Sunday. It is opening up this week. Bruno Mars is the first show, but it's surreal. I can't even put it into words how much this means to people like myself, longtime Clipper fans that have had to listen to the jokes our whole lives about the B team and the basement. And, we did have the sports arena that we shared with USC for a while, a little bit, not before I was born, but before I was able to watch basketball. And then Staples Center, these last 25 years have been amazing. I love the Staples Center, the Crypto.com arena. But this is ours. This is our home. We have our own team store. We have our own surrounding area outside the arena that is dedicated to us with paraphernalia and all that of the Clippers only. I mean, it's special. And then, as you mentioned, the game experience, that's what's going to be the difference because Staples Center was built for the LA Kings in mind first. It's technically a hockey arena. The sound, the way it's built, is not the best for a basketball game. I love it. I'm a LA Kings fan. I'm a Sparks fan. So even though I'm not a Laker fan, I still enjoy going to games there for anything. But the Intuit Dome was made with other fan bases that have loud fans and loud stadiums in mind. So it's Steve Ballmer's vision, and it's really come to fruition beautifully. I can't wait to see a game there so I can confirm to you that we have the best arena in the NBA now. And obviously it doesn't have the history of places like MSG and whatnot, but in terms of a high-tech, great place to watch a game with great sound, I mean, they said to us that row 20 at the Intuit Dome was 45 feet closer to the court than row 20 at Staples Center, which is insane. That's almost half a basketball court. Yeah. So I can't wait to hear the same fan base in a new arena. That's a special experience for all of us.
So I was out there and we went to a tour of SoFi Stadium, which is just next door to Intuit, and I was a bit annoyed that Intuit wasn't fully open yet, that I couldn't get out there and do a tour of that stadium as well, because it looks wild, it looks crazy, just the outside of how it looks, and you fly over it in the airport. It's there. It's an interesting spot in the city, but having that dedicated home is huge. But of course, this team is very different to what they have been over the last couple of seasons. We'll start off by having a look at the players that have joined the squad. Derrick Jones Jr. and Kevin Porter Jr. come in. Nick Batum is back. The man loves the Clippers. Mo Bamba arrives, and then eventually we did get Chris Dunn jumping over after it seemed like it was announced 3 years before he actually came across. The biggest addition that you think on this squad is Derrick Jones Jr. I'll let you put it in your words of why you think he is the biggest addition. Why is Derrick Jones Jr. the biggest move they made this offseason?
Well, because when you look at who the Clippers acquired, and you mentioned all the names, only one of those players was an actual starter, and that was Derrick Jones Jr. And he wasn't just a starter. He was a starter on an NBA Finals team. So a team that made it to the West, won the West, and he was taking the responsibility of guarding the best players in every matchup. Paul George in ours, SGA in the second one, Anthony Edwards in the third. And I'm not going to sit here and say Derrick Jones Jr. is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league or like an all defensive guy, but he surely is a very solid one, a very good one. And he can take some defensive responsibilities off of Terrence Mann, who I felt, is a very solid defender. But if he's the best defender on your team at the point of attack, he's the guy that you're using to slow down all these incredible guards across the league, then your team is probably not a championship defense. And having Derrick Jones Jr. and obviously having other guys, Nico Batum and all that, is going to help have like a point of attack defense by committee. But I think Derrick Jones Jr. is going to be headlining that. And another reason I think, besides the fact that he was a starter on a championship team, that he's our best addition is not only does he give us what we lack in that point of attack department or guarding on ball department, the Clippers have lacked athleticism for several years. I remember when I came on this show last year, and I'm pretty sure we touched on that. The athleticism, and then you add James Harden to the mix, we only got slower and older. So we need someone that can get above the rim and maybe get the crowd excited about a crazy dunk or an insane block or a guy's head's above the rim like we used to be accustomed to with DJ and Blake. So having an added athlete to the equation and someone that can defend and is long, that is going to be awesome, in my opinion, for us.
He's a guy that was just available to everybody last season, signed as a free agent to Dallas late in the process and took a while to sort of work into that role. So I think there is some risk with Derrick Jones about maybe an overrating of what he can bring. He's really solid in what he does, but you can't task him to do too much. And it'll be interesting to see exactly how they use him. But bringing in someone like Nick Batum as well, who is not the athletic player that Derrick Jones is, but fills that position and guards these guys and does the passing value of Batum is huge, and his 3-point shooting, like having those mix and match players at the 3 where you can have different looks, I think is really important for where this squad is at the moment and where they're going to go from here. But that does bring us into talking about the players that they lost, Darian, through the offseason. Of course, the big one there is Paul George. They also lose Russell Westbrook. They lose Daniel Tice. They lose Mason Plumlee. BJ Boston's gone. He signed in San Antonio as well. There's been so much talked about with Paul George. We don't need to go into gigantic detail about what PG, why he was gone and all that sort of stuff. But I want to sort of focus on here where Paul George leaves the team, which he is obviously the biggest loss on this squad. But what that means about the direction of the team and how Barmer is looking at this squad, because the easy thing would have been just pay him what he wants. We've got the new arena. Let's go again for one more year, but they didn't. That isn't what happened. So what does that how does the loss of Paul George, which we can, that can be covered in certain areas by other players, but what does it mean in terms of, the focus of coaching staff or in-season moves or anything like that?
I'm actually still curious to see if Steve Ballmer and Lawrence Frank are going to go all out for it in the season when it comes to the trade deadline or whatnot, because the truth of the matter is, in my opinion, we already weren't a championship team with Paul George, James Harden, and Kawhi. Now, even less of a chance. I wouldn't put us in the conversation for a championship right now. I think we could be a lot better. By the way, I'm going to apologize to your listeners in advance with how much I say we, but my listeners, the Locked On Clippers crowd, they encourage me to say we because I'm just a diehard fan. I don't hide it. 20 years this year, by the way, which is crazy. I can't believe I'm saying that. I know. But the Paul George loss is big. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, especially with the injury concerns of Kawhi and James Harden's on the older side. Having that third star was insurance, when one of them missed a game or something like that. And you're also just losing a very solid player, an all-star year in, year out. Of course, he comes with his flaws as well, but Paul George is great. And losing him and now just having a 2-star team with a very solid supporting cast, I think the best the Clippers can be is better than people think. Maybe he can win a series or two if everything shakes out well and Kawhi Leonard is healthy. I think the front office realizes that we've put all our eggs in the Kawhi Leonard basket. If he's not healthy, then the conversation is pointless. So I believe they're going to see how this team is, because right now they know that they're competitive enough to sell tickets in this new arena. They're not a championship contender, but here's the thing. Ty Lue, Kawhi, and James Harden might believe that they are, because the defense has gone better. Less Paul George means not another, one less mouth to feed. Now James Harden might get back to averaging 20 and 10 like we saw with Philly. Kawhi can get his shot attempts up to 20 a night when he's playing and gives a chance for some other guys to maybe step in. But I think the front office is getting ready for the next era of Clipper basketball, which is going to be 2027. And you might be wondering why 2027? Why not now? Why not just blow it up? Because the Clippers have traded all their picks to OKC and then a couple others to Philly for James Harden and Paul George. So the best route in terms of a rebuild is to go for big free agents in a couple of years when Kawhi Leonard's contract expires. So that being said, they might trade him before, who knows? But this season, I don't believe that's going to happen. And what I think is going to happen is if the Clippers are showing, and they could if Kawhi and James Harden are healthy, that, look, we're like one move away from being back in the conversation. Because the West, there's some teams I think that have gone weaker this offseason, and they might make a swing in the trade deadline and say, you know what, we're going to try to give Kawhi a real chance. Because if he is healthy, if there is a year that he's healthy, and it's this one, we don't want to say that we didn't have the roster around him if he is. So that's what I think they're going to do is they're going to wait and see. But all I know is we're going to be very competitive to start the season, but you better believe that the loss of Paul George is huge, mainly for when one of Kawhi or James Harden misses a game, because then we're like relying on one of them to completely carry the load. We don't really have many self-creators on the team.
Yeah, that's where I think someone like a Kevin Porter might be useful. We'll see what he's able to do, because he's only ever put up numbers on a team that was terrible, but he can generate shots for himself and for others. And yeah, you don't want to put that much faith in Kevin Porter being able to handle that on a team that's good. But you're right, the other options to do that, like, they just don't exist. Like, there's just no one else that can really fill that role. Because again, like, we can criticize what Russell Westbrook does at times, but he could have done that. He could have taken on some of that creation for others and creation for himself and generating shots, but now he's not there as well. So that does create some extra problems. We've got more that we're going to get to talk about with this team, including projected lineups. But first of all, I'm going to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Over the summer, we all know that there are just less sports on. That's fewer sports, I think, might be the actual word, but it doesn't matter because we know there's just less of it going on. There is just not as much happening, but that is going to start to change too. But that doesn't mean that FanDuel doesn't have your back, because every customer, every day of the summer gets one of two things. They get either a daily boost or a daily bonus. Simple stuff. That is not new customers. That is every customer on FanDuel all through the summer. Every day you get a boost or a bonus. The Olympics are over now, but NFL preseason is on. You're going to have the WNBA restarting. Major League Baseball is here, heading into their playoff stretch run as well, and all of that is available over at FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com right now and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. So, Darian, we'll take a look at your projected starting group on this squad. I don't think that there's a gigantic debate about this. You got James Harden, Terrence Mann, Kawhi Leonard, Derrick Jones Jr., and Ivica Zubac. I could see a situation where Batum is in that mix. I see a very small percentage possibility that maybe it is a Kevin Porter. I don't think it will be, but yeah, this seems like it's the safe way to go and the easy way to go with that starting group. I'm going to focus this part of the show on Terrence Mann, because when anyone talks about Terrence Mann, you're probably well aware of this. I'll just say, he scored 40 in a playoff game against Utah, right? Everyone will say, oh, Terrence Mann, maybe it's the chance. I remember he cooked Utah in that series. Right, that's like 3 years ago now, and he's had opportunities, and it never seems to happen. Like, it's never ramped up. He's never pushed it forward apart from that one series. So I'll ask the question again, like, could Terrence Mann be someone who steps into that usage vacuum that exists now?
Not in my opinion. I don't think that he is going to be a big-time shot creator at the NBA level. I think he's going to be a role player that plays off of other guys. I think with Terrence, last season it was an adjustment. He finally got the keys to being that fifth starter. And when we got James Harden, I think the pace was a little uncomfortable for him. It was a little bit slower. He got a lot more open shots, but it just felt like every single shot just felt bigger, more pressured. He didn't get many easy baskets on the break or cut into the basket or anything like that. It was more of a catch and shoot around James, and James does give you more open shots than almost that damn near anyone in the league. I mean, he really is still great at getting role players like Terrence Mann open threes, and he was in a major shooting slump, Terrence, and it got to his head. Yeah, in the first half of the season, I mean, it majorly got in his head, and then slowly but surely in the new year, he reverted and he adjusted, and those catch and shoot threes were going down for him. So much so that he got it. I remember at one point of the season, like deep into the season, his percentage was at like 17%, and he ended the season at 35%, which was the lowest of his career, but he made up a lot of ground when it comes to his percentage there. So if he can shoot the ball back to 37 to 40% from three, that would be huge. I think that'll get him around the 10 points per game mark. But nah, I don't see anything big leap coming from him shot creating wise or usage wise. I think it'll be around the same. If anything less, maybe because Nico and Derrick Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn can do some of the things that he was asked to do defensively.
That's true, because they're all those guys who are, they just do those little things defensively. They can guard up, they guard down, they pressure the ball, they can play off ball. And that's not something the Clippers have always sort of had, is that big group of players who can sort of mix and match through those different roles. I guess back in the day when Rob Covington was doing that along with Batum, and that gave that flexibility, but now we're able to push down in some of these smaller positions too. So you're right. Like I don't have any real faith in Terrence Mann being able to become a different player and ramp up and become the third usage player. I just don't think that is who he is. Now, what I do want to look at here is you've given me your projected bench group. So we're going 10 deep here in the rotation. So we've got Chris Dunn, there's Norman Powell, there's Amir Coffey, Nick Batum, and Mo Bamba. Now, there's a name that's absent there that I mentioned earlier. It's Kevin Porter Jr. So where do you think he fits in this group? Because I do think that he will play, but obviously there is positional issues as well. What is the idea here behind like an Amir Coffey who's always been around? He can step up and start, but like I don't think he's got a huge ceiling there. Like, how does that all work to you in terms of trying to find those minutes for all those players? Because again, they lost Paul George and Westbrook and their centers, but they brought in a bunch of interesting depth pieces, and that can be a challenging thing for a coach to try and manage.
Well, I actually have the backup point guard conversation as an episode, my next episode of Locked On Clippers. Chris Dunn, Kevin Porter, and Bones Highland. I really don't know what the coaching staff thinks of all this, because I was a little surprised that we signed Kevin Porter Jr. when we have Bones Highland, who I'm not saying is as good as KPJ. KPJ is better than him, but Bones is kind of that energizer off the bench, like get on the ball and be a guy that goes and gets buckets. Like that's to me the ideal role for him in the NBA, is to be your backup point guard, come in and get buckets, like a smaller Jamal Crawford disciple kind of guy. He loves Jamal Crawford, can do some good things in pick and roll. He's a very underrated passer, in my opinion, Bones. There's obviously some concerns about the defense and his size and, his inefficiency and all that, but you've got to give him a chance. And if the Clippers aren't going to give this guy a chance, then they're going to trade him. And there's going to be a trade happening, so we'll see what happens there. That would then give Kevin Porter Jr. a chance. But I put Chris Dunn because, in my opinion, he's the safest pick to get minutes out of those three on a consistent basis. And then Norman Powell is definitely going to be that sixth man. I actually think when we talked about the starter conversation, there is a shot, in my opinion, that Norman Powell starts instead of Terrence, because Terrence and Derrick Jones Jr., two guys that are role players, but they're not great three-point shooters. And with James Harden and Kawhi, you want guys that are going to make you pay from deep more frequently. And Norman Powell, given the loss of Paul George, they might want to get another scorer in there, which would then open things up for KPJ to get minutes, which is very likely. And then now Amir Coffey is fighting for a rotation spot, which, as you said, like Amir Coffey finally got a rotation spot on the team last year when we made the trades and got rid of Rocco and KJ and Nico. And he did very solid, actually. I think he had a very solid season, but in the playoffs, the basketball was a little too big for him that first postseason. A guy that I would watch that could potentially sneak into the rotation maybe are the two guys in Summer League, Jordan Miller and Kobe Brown. Clippers got all the way to the Summer League championship, and Jordan Miller are almost the MVP of Summer League. We'll see how much competition for places they give Amir Coffey for that backup role, but I think there is a chance Norman Powell does start and you move Terrence Mann to the bench, which would open things up for KPJ. But my honest answer with the KPJ thing is I have no clue.
Yeah, I think that's fair because we don't know. He hasn't been on ever a team that was serious. He didn't play in the NBA. And there are other options that I'm going to be honest with you. Like when we're talking about like who can take usage, like the fact that Norm Powell is still there, I just forget. Like not that I forget, like he just sort of is there and he's been doing things, but I don't look at him and go, wow, he's going to step into this role. Maybe he does. That is possible as well. But I also think he's sort of a lot older than people think, and maybe he doesn't have that level left anymore. He might, but he also might not. That brings us to the big question, I think, regarding this team, and that is Darian is Kawhi Leonard, because, like, I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this, because Kawhi played the majority of last season, and then we got another knee injury. And as per usual with Kawhi, as per usual with the Clippers, we don't know what exactly is happening. We don't really get updates on anything like this, but this is multiple injuries to the same ligament, same knee, has me concerned. And then we had whatever it was that happened with Team USA, whether it was the Clippers claiming they didn't pull him out, that Team USA cut him. Like, what? You say, well, yeah, maybe it's the year Kawhi stays healthy. I have always been a Kawhi optimist and been very consistent in that idea, but now multiple of the same injury on the same knee, the same ligament, same area, I don't think it can happen anymore. It's just too much that just keeps happening. Okay, where are you at with the current state of his injury?
I don't think he's actually that hurt right now. I think
that's good news.
Yeah. USC coach Eric Musselman posted pictures that Kawhi came and worked out at USC. So if he's working out, he sounds like he's okay to me. And from everything I know, Kawhi's camp and the Clippers, they did not agree with Team USA's decision to send him home. They want him to actually play. So that's encouraging to me that he's health-wise, he's probably fine. But when you talk about the knee and the degenerative knee and the whatever condition, quad tendinopathy or whatever it is that he has, yeah, it's something to monitor. And it's not something that Clipper fans have much faith in. I think there are a lot of fans that have to just, I wouldn't say trick themselves, but make themselves believe that this guy can still stay healthy for a full playoff run and whatever's asked of him during the season. I would expect him to fully go back to load management this season and not play back-to-backs. Nothing's really worked. Like in 2023, they tried to ease him into things. He got hurt, tore his meniscus in the playoffs. This past season, we said, no, let's make him build up the callus and play these games and get ready for things. And then it wasn't even a major injury. It was knee inflammation. And when we had one of the beat writers on Locked On Clippers to talk about it, he said it was just the wear and tear. So I don't know how you manage it with him. It's very unfortunate. I never thought that 5 years into this process after we got Kawhi that I would be sitting here with such disappointment. And just almost like the honest truth is that the Kawhi Leonard experience on the Clippers has not been fun. It has not been. There was one high for him, and that was for all of us watching him, was that first round series against Mavericks in 2021 where he was absolutely ridiculous. And then those games 3 and 4 against Utah where he was amazing as well. Then after that, everything else has been short-lived fun, and it gets you so excited because he's so damn good. Like, he's so incredible, one of the best in the league. But we haven't had those great moments watching Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs when it counts. And he is a playoff riser. That's what we got him for, to bring home a title or to get us where we've never gotten. And we did in 2021. But, Paul George was the one that stuck out more in that run in terms of what we remember, the big memories. So, I have no faith in the Kawhi health thing, but what choice do I have?
But yeah, well, as a fan, you have to say, well, maybe. But like as an outside observer, like I love Kawhi. He's one of my favorite players, one of the best players in the NBA. But at some point now, we're at that stage where he can't he obviously cannot play a full season with back-to-backs and make it through a playoff run. He can't do it. Like, he just can't. You talk about wear and tear. Like, he did play more games and he played back-to-backs and then it didn't work. So, like, the smart thing is to not play him those games through the regular season and try and see if it happens. Now, sometimes, fluke stuff can happen with ligament tears and all that sort of thing. But if you can avoid a wear and tear situation, I think you have to. I think they're going to have to go back into that sort of mindset with Kawhi for this season. But obviously, that's just the giant question that's hanging over this whole team and how he's managed and how he looks. And does the extra load that is going to be put on his shoulders cause more of those problems? Like, there's just so many questions around that. Now, you mentioned Jordan Miller already because he was great at Summer League. I remember I wasn't watching the Clippers game. I was at Summer League. I was in the other arena and people were like, starting to like whisper around me. They go, man, Jordan Miller's popping off. I go, really? Jordan Miller's popping off? Well, yes, he was. He put up gigantic numbers in Summer League. He was cooking for this team. He is a player that plays the three. He shot the ball really well in Summer League. Now, we looked at that bench rotation and Amir Coffey was there. Like, it shouldn't be a stretch, if you want to talk about the next phase of this team, to think that Jordan Miller could get a full-time contract and find that rotation role. Yeah, they have been loath at times to play younger players, but we talk about changing of the guard and maybe a different mindset and a different structure of the team. Like, is he ready for it, do you think?
I think he could be. I think, as I said, it should come down to training camp. What's the difference between him and Amir Coffey? How much worse is he really than Amir Coffey right now? Because who knows? Maybe he ends up showing things at the NBA level that make Clipper fans and NBA fans believe that he could be better than Amir Coffey. I'm not the one that's with these guys all the time, watching them practice, so I can't make that call. Right now, Amir Coffey has earned his stripes as an NBA rotation player for the Clippers, and he was very solid in his backup role last year for a 4th seed. In the playoffs, he wasn't quite ready for, but you throw Jordan Miller in the playoffs right now, who knows? He might not look great either. So I think he deserves a chance. I really do, and it's going to come down for me to training camp.
Yeah, because he was like obviously very raw last season. Miller, he didn't do a huge amount there. He played a lot in the G League, but and also when we look at these Summer League numbers, he shot 60% from three, and like that's just not going to happen. He had 30% usage. He's not going to do any of those things, but he looked competent. He looked like he can fill that role, which every team wants. Hey, can you knock down threes and can you play it? You play at the three, and can you have 6'7" or whatever with your decent defensive ability? Like, everyone kills for a player like that who is good at it. He might not be, but if you can do those things and shoot and defend, and you're 6'7", that's like unbelievably valuable. We'll see where it goes, but the signs are encouraging. Like the fact that he can come out and cook at that level, even though it is Summer League. But he was a late second round pick. He was a two-way guy. There's huge things that are encouraging there. And again, where we look at the roster and you go back to Kawhi, like if Kawhi gets hurt, then there's way more opportunities there. Yes, Jones and Batum and Coffey, but who knows? Who knows? He is really, to me, he's more intriguing than, say, Kobe Brown, who you brought up earlier. I'm not really sure where Kobe fits necessarily, given that Jones and Batum are playing that role. Do you think what do you think Kobe's position is actually? By the way, do you think he's a small ball five? He's strictly a four. What do you think he is?
Definitely not a small ball five. He's too small for that. But I would say, honestly, he's still small. So I'd say a small ball four, like a stretch four, just a bigger forward out there, and a three. Just a forward. But he could play as up as second biggest guy on the floor. He's just not really that tall.
He's like 6'8", 6'9", maybe.
No, he's much less than that. I think he's like 6'6".
Wow.
He's listed at like 6'6". I'm gonna look it up right now on Basketball Reference. Oh no, 6'7". They listed him at 6'7" on Basketball Reference. So he's not that small, but he's like 250. So that's the thing. He's big, but that's as far as I would go, is small ball four.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I have more faith in Miller than Brown, but again, that is one of those things that we can see over the course of the season. Darian, the major storyline for this season, I think that when we're talking about the Clippers and this year, it's how much patience do they have? How much patience do they have with the group that they've got? How much patience do they have with Kawhi's injury and his injury history? Like, will they just run it all out, or can they make moves in season? Like, that's to me is the thing, is the patience around this current squad. How else would you sort of frame the major idea of this season?
Well, one thing I haven't even mentioned that I think is very relevant that other fans that are not Clipper fans might not know of is the Clippers can keep their pick that OKC has the choice of swapping this season if they finish above the Houston Rockets and the Houston Rockets don't have a top 10 pick. So essentially, the Oklahoma City Thunder can pick whose pick they want, the Clippers, the Rockets, or their own. They're not going to pick their own because they're going to be the best team of those three in the regular season, the Thunder. So it's a choice between the Clippers pick and the Rockets pick. If the Clippers are worse than Houston, they're taking the Clippers pick. And then we have to take the Thunder's pick, which will be like 29th or 30. And our future's bleak. So if the Clippers can finish better than Houston, and Houston's not bottom 10 because they have the protection on that pick, top 10, the Clippers can keep their pick and maybe get like a top 20 pick, so maybe 18, 19 or something like that, which I think is big at this point with the lack of first-round picks we have going forward. So I think it's just going to be as good as they can be and just be competitive. As far as title, I don't know. This roster is not it for me. The question is, how much does Kawhi care? How much does James Harden care? How much do they believe in this current team? That matters, in my opinion, when it comes to making moves at the deadline and whatnot.
To me, one of the burning questions around the squad for this upcoming season revolves around James Harden, who they got at the beginning of last season, and he took a gigantic step backwards because not step backwards in his play, but in his role. Like, he wasn't the MVP James Harden. He wasn't averaging 36 points a game. What did he average? 16 points a game? Like, he said, like, okay, I don't need to score. I'm going to pass. And he was flying when the Clippers were flying. The whole team was really clicking. But you can't be that guy this season. It has to be different for James Harden. So the question to you, Darian, is you watched him up close all season. Can James Harden actually ramp it up again to become a guy that, look, averages 20 points per game and sees that usage climb? Because he has to, like, honestly, for them to have success, he has to be able to do that to some degree.
No, he will. I have full confidence that he can average 20 and 10 again, honestly. And I'm not even the biggest like James Harden guy, as most people know, but I think he can average 20 and 10. He's still very good. I think, will be happy about getting a chance to have more of an opportunity to get more shots up and get buckets more and isolate more because, fun fact, Kawhi and James Harden actually were top 2 in the league in points per possessions in terms of isolations, which is pretty wild to me because it didn't necessarily feel that way, even though I felt like they would usually get a good shot for the team when they isolated. But that was impressive to me. So I think it'll be more encouraged, given that information, for Harden to go to work and be more aggressive. And the games that Kawhi doesn't play, which I'm almost positive that he will miss more games than last season.
Yep.
That's when you'll see James Harden go back to like ball dominance and high usage and pick and roll, dribble, but it still could end up being 30 and 10 on a win given the opponent. If it's a team that can't really guard, doesn't have great pick and roll defense, he could just go out there and get 30 and 10. Like that's what he's still capable of doing for me. It could look horrible against the really good defensive teams, but make no mistake, to me, James Harden will be flirting with an all-star appearance this season.
All-star appearance is high praise. I think he's obviously going to take steps forward from where he was last season. But you're right. Like, if Kawhi isn't there, he's going to have to do a lot more. Because, again, like we go back to the start of the show, it's not only that Paul George isn't there and Kawhi might get hurt. Like, Russell Westbrook isn't there either. So, like, he's going to have to do way more. And to James's credit, like, he scaled back the usage. He scaled back how much time he had on ball because it's what the team needed. And now they need something different, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have no problem in taking more shots. He doesn't strike me as someone who's going to be shot averse. So I think there's going to be a huge opportunity for big minutes here for Jim. Your bold prediction for this upcoming season, Darian, is one that I don't think a lot of people would agree with, and that's why it's bold. You're like the Clippers are going to make the playoffs, not the play-in. A top 6 seed. You think that they are good enough? They were 4th in the West last season. Do you think they're going to fall, but still good enough to be a top 6 seed?
Well, if I was being optimistic on that one. I think
that's the point of it.
Yeah. Well. Oh yeah. So if I had to guess, most likely playing. But you know what? We're on this show. We're stick up for this team right now. The Clippers could easily, in my opinion, finish top 6. It's just a matter of Kawhi and James Harden's health. Let's say they both play 60-plus games. I think we'll finish top 6. Seriously.
Because
I think this team is better. I think the team is better than people think. Defensively, they have a chance to be a top 5 defense in the league, and that really entices me because I'm a defense guy. And it just felt like for me, the James Harden move just felt so offensive minded, and I never thought we needed so much more shot creation. But with James Harden and Kawhi, there will be a level of efficiency, a level of shot creation that's there. But defensively, we've really taken a leap. And I think someone we haven't even mentioned and is going to be so integral to this season is going to be Zoo. Because not only was he really good in the Mavs series, he's improved actually every single season. I really think he's gotten better every single season. Thing is, some people think maybe he hasn't improved as much as they had expected or they'd wanted. But I also think the coaching staff, and I'm not a guy that blames coaches, but the coaching staff has to take a little bit of an L on this. Zoo has had a very solid low post game for a couple of years, especially his right-hand jump hook from the left block. But this past season or two, he added a left-handed jump hook. And there are a lot of guys in the league with the lack of post-game emphasis these days that can't hit jump hooks with both hands. A lot of players chime in on this. Zubac can do it, and we don't throw him the ball enough, and we struggle to get paint points. And he's pretty efficient when we throw him the ball. I think the question that people have is, it's obviously not a post-up league, but I'm not asking for a lot. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying a couple of times a game, dump the ball down to him. I think the playmaking out of potential double teams is where there's resistance from the coaching staff, but how else are you going to develop this guy? You can really make Zoo a third guy on this team. You talked about who's going to be that third usage guy. We always think of like a playmaker, a ball handler, but throwing the ball down to him occasionally, the way the Pelicans use like a Valanciunas, I think Zoo deserves that kind of respect, especially with what he does on the defensive end. And surrounded by this level of point of attack defense, expect a big defensive season yet again from Zoo.
I'm glad you brought him up. I was just about to start to talk about Zubac because the big question regarding him and through the fantasy circles is why doesn't Ty Lue play him? Like he averaged 26 minutes a night. Like bro's really good. Like he's 27. He's 7 foot tall. He defends at a really high level. Their backup centers, like Mo Bamba is not he's bad. Like he is bad. And Mason Plumlee is not very good. And Daniel Tice was not very good. He was fine, but he was not very good. At some point, surely, Darren, like we need to, like these minutes, 22, 24, 28, 26, like he is clearly someone who should, I think, be playing. Look, you're not even talking about his post-up touches or usage, which is really low. Like all this stuff should very clearly increase. We've got a lot of evidence to suggest that Lou may not do it, and I'm glad you put some of that blame on the coaching staff, but it's very obvious to me that it should be happening, and maybe this is the year.
Have been saying that if it's Zubac averaged 30 minutes a game, he would average a double-double with ease.
Easy.
Because right now, last season he averaged 12 and 9. So give him, and he played 26.4 minutes a game. So give him 4 more minutes. I think he'll average 1 more rebound. I don't know why he can't play 30 minutes. Is it a stamina thing?
I don't think it is.
I don't know why he can't play 30 minutes a game. We should have that as a target number this season, that he should play 30 minutes a game, especially with, as you said, Mo Bamba. That might be a downgrade from Daniel Tice for all we know.
Yeah, it is. He's bad.
Clipper fans actually really like Daniel Tice. I'm a big fan of his. I don't know what happened when Mason Plumlee came back from injury. They started playing Mason Plumlee again instead of Tice. And look, neither option was incredible coming off the bench, but Tice was the player that was playing when the Clippers hit stride and went 26-5 during the season in that span that you referenced earlier. It was not Plumlee. It was Tice. And if you look at the FIBA games, Tice does really well for Germany still. So I wish him the best in New Orleans. But yeah, Zubac should be getting 30 minutes. One thing I also want to mention that's going to be huge for Ty Lue, and part of why Zoo doesn't get as many minutes as one might think, is Ty Lue loves the small ball. But last season, when we made the trade and lost Nico and Rocco, we didn't have the personnel to do it besides playing Kawhi Leonard at the 5. And that's not necessarily super ideal. So this season, with Derrick Jones, Nicholas Batum, and Kawhi Leonard, expect to see more of those small ball lineups that we saw in 2021 and 2022 that Ty Lue loved, that you saw in the playoffs. And that could be an element, though, that actually works in our favor a lot, because then you have a bunch of shooting around James Harden and a lot of switchable defenders. And that could cause some problems that people aren't considering.
The other difference I think this season is that I actually agree with Ty Lue on this one, is that like if you are playing Zubac's big minutes, that means that you're crossing over a lot with Westbrook, and that means two guys who can't shoot. Right, but you don't have that problem anymore. Like Westbrook's not there, and Terrence Mann and James Harden and Kawhi and Batum and Powell, all those guys can shoot. So the only real non-shooter is Zubac. Now, Chris Dunn's not a very strong shooter, but he's not the Westbrook type that's coming off the bench. Like, he's not that player. So, like, maybe I think that's part of why Daniel Tice was having that success, because he was able to step out a little bit and create that space while Westbrook is there. And when Plumlee got back in those minutes, it clogs things up again. And that seemed relatively obvious that would be not what you should have done, but they did it anyway. Let's talk team record. Darian, this team, like we said, I think they won 51 games last season as a top 4 seed. You have projected them to fall a little bit with 48 wins. Let me phrase this one. Like, how many games are you thinking Kawhi plays to get them to 48?
Last season he played 68. So this season I'm going to go with 60 flat.
Yeah, I think you'll really struggle to hit 65. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think I've got him projected at like 58 or something along those lines. So around that same mark, because again, it didn't work, and the knee just couldn't handle it. Too much swelling, too much pain, too much all that stuff that was a wear and tear thing. And you know how you get wear and tear? That's by wearing it out, by playing too much. Last thing, Darian, giving all the hosts a short, small quiz. We're heading into the 24-25 season. So all I want to tell you, and this team has a lot of these players, all I want you to tell me is the first player that comes to mind that has worn number 24 as a jersey number, or number 25 for the Clippers. They have 31 players in their history that have worn either 24 or 25. Is there anyone that comes to your mind who has worn that number?
Well, right now Norman Powell wears 24, so that's the first one that comes to my mind.
Correct. There's an easy answer. I'm just looking through the list to see if there's any funny. Oh, Doc Rivers wore 25 when he was playing here. Shout out to Glenn when he was number 25 there. Mo Williams, Austin Rivers 25 as well. Another.
I don't know how Austin Rivers didn't come to my mind. I mean, Mo Williams was awesome. I'm trying to think about another 24.
The names are not particularly inspiring here. In fact, I can only see like a handful in the last 20 years that even wore 24 for more than one season, because it's like guys like Elvin Williams, Malik Fitz, Andre Miller, guys who wore it for like 1 year, but like back in the day, World Be Free was number 24.
There we go.
Pooh Richardson wore number 24 as well. But
Mo Williams, I'm trying to think about 25. Bobby Simmons.
Let me look on the list. I don't see Bobby Simmons there. Nah, he's not there. Most of these other names are like Reggie Bullock was 25.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Moussa Diabate, Fiondu Kabengele was 25 as well. Some bloke by the name of Logan van der Velden wore number 25 in the 90s, and Alex Stivrins. Yeah, not like not an completely inspiring list of names there, but Darren, this is a team that has a lot of intrigue around them, and if you want to be inspired, they can come and listen to Locked On Clippers that you host and have done so for the last few years and done it exceedingly well. So what's happening on Locked On Clippers at the moment?
Locked On Clippers. I mean, it's a lot of Intuit Dome stuff right now. The new stadium's opening up this week. That's the thing that everyone's most excited about. We know that the team isn't as good, but there's a lot of people that are excited because the 2-1-3 era is over. The Kawhi Paul George era is over. It's now the second half, I guess, of the Kawhi era. He's joined by James Harden, who outperformed Paul George in the playoffs last year. So a lot of people feel better about going into the season with him. But the stadium is really the standout. So a lot of stuff on that. And just join me for the ride. This is the newest stadium in the NBA, and you'll be able to see every single bit of this inaugural season right here with me. So I can't wait to be a part of this is my third year, so excited to do it.
Go check out Darian over at Locked On Clippers for all of the news that you need over there. Thank you once again for jumping on with me.
Anytime, Josh.
And that does bring us to the end of today's show. Don't forget that I do want you to subscribe, and I do want you to hit a thumbs up, and I do want you to leave a comment down below. As you're well aware with Kawhi, we're going to get to more of this stuff through the season. I am not really that interested in drafting him inside the first 2 rounds, maybe not even round 3, because I just think that multiple injuries, same ligament, meniscus, knee, too much for me. Not willing to take that risk, even though I know that he's awesome. And I drafted him in many leagues last year. Not that interested in doing that this year, but what you could be interested again is hitting that subscribe and also saying goodbye. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.